Is your lawn ready for a robot mower? This is the Sunseeker X7 Robotic Mower. Now, obviously it's cordless. Obviously there's no cord, but it runs on a battery, so it's battery powered. So the blades spin via the battery and the wheels spin via the battery. Now, this is the only all-wheel drive mower that we've reviewed. It's also like the 5th robotic mower that we've reviewed. And by far, I'm kind of giving away a lot that we usually save till the end. This is the straightest and truest path of a mower that we've used. In other words, when it's mowing stripes, it's the straightest that we've ever seen in a robotic mower, and it stays on task. Now, sometimes it'll get out of that to avoid obstacles or to go around obstacles that you've programmed, but it will do both of those. So you can program no zones in where it will avoid those, all-time obstacles, or it will also avoid the dog or the ball in the yard or the bike in the yard as well with the AI technology on board. Now, it uses RTK technology where it uses a satellite as well as the base station to kind of triangulate the position of the mower, and it does it very precisely. We were blown away at how well it worked. Also blown away at how easy it mapped. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the details right away, and then afterwards we'll come back and talk about what we thought of it, in addition to the things we just said, as well as the pricing. This is the Sunseeker Orion X7 Robotic Mower. And I don't want to just call this a robotic mower. We've reviewed like 5 different robotic mowers, and this one is much different than any of the other ones that we have reviewed. And we'll get into that here in one moment because there's several features that actually differentiate it. Number one, it will do up to 3/4 of an acre. Many of these are like made for an 1/8 acre or kind of at the most a 1/4 acre. So they're claiming 3/4 of an acre for that. So these are those larger yards that it should be able to handle. It's got dual mowing blades. Again, we'll go on that in a moment. Actually, it's got 6 blades, but dual rotating disc. We'll cover that. Large front wheels. Also, something going on with the back wheel as well that we'll go over. Now, it does use a docking station that also it charges. You see the barcode up there where it will read with the camera to pull in. But again, much more than just a visual camera that it's operating on. It does use RTK technology, so you do need an antenna that's going to connect to GPS. It's also going to connect to your Wi-Fi so that you can actually communicate back and forth with it. But the nice thing about this, and again, several different features that are differentiating this. Number one, usually when you get an RTK antenna, usually it's made to just go in the ground, stand straight up, and many times you want to do that next to your home, things like that, and it doesn't get a good signal. Well, they've included one that actually can go either on the ground and stand straight up, or as you see this tilting head here, you can tilt it this way, lock it down, and actually mount this on the fascia of your roof. So right there at the eave and mounted on the fascia of your home, or it could be even angled, and you can adjust the angle on this as well as it's telescoping. So they're making things a lot easier so that you can get this in a clearing, because this needs excellent signal coming from those satellites and able to then communicate to the mower to let the mower know where it's located. And we're going to get on the details of the mower in just one moment, but let me cover something really quickly that again differentiates this company, even though it may be a minor thing to you. Now, when you want to mount the actual docking station or the charging station, whatever you want to call that, you can mount that in the grass, and typically what you'll get is something like this, where you get spikes you drive in the ground or screws. I love these Christmas tree ideas, so it should go in the ground and grab pretty well. So if you're putting it in turf or grass, that should work out fine. However, they also include concrete anchors. So if you want to drill holes in the concrete, put those in there, and then you tighten these down. These will actually grab really well and be able to mount that where you want to. So that can be either for the docking station or for the RTK antenna as well. So just very impressed that they include some concrete anchors as well as turf anchors for the dock, as well as these would be like turf anchors for the RTK antenna as well. So several different options for you to be able to install this where you want to. Also, they include spare blades. So this is the size of the blade on the mower. We'll go over that here in one moment. You also have, it's dual-sided, And again, we've got dual disc, even comes with the additional screws also with Loctite already on there. So one thing that sticks out on this mower are the large front wheels, and they are actually about 8.5 inches in diameter, have big rubber knobbies on there. So plastic wheels, but rubber knobbies on the outside for excellent gripping. Nice and wide as well. Looks like they're right at 2 inches wide. So 2 inches wide, 8.5 inches tall for great grip. That's your drive wheels. However, there's a drive wheel in the back as well, and we'll cover that in one moment. You've got the RTK signal right here on the top of the mower. And then up front here, we have cameras. And then we have these two metal prongs right here. And what that's going to do is when it rolls into the station, underneath these prongs here, they're kind of spring loaded, are big metal plates. And so when this actually rolls all the way in, and by the way, it's going to be reading that barcode there, and that's going to tell it it's home. It's going to pull in, and it's going to automatically start charging. So when it's done mowing, it's finished its task, or it runs low on battery, it's going to return home, get back on the charger, charge up, and then go back out on its scheduled path. We have a large digital readout right here. So when we turn this on, you can see, you can access things right here from the unit. You can reset things, you can power it off, obviously, but also a huge red stop button. So if this thing's out in the middle of the yard or doing something it shouldn't be, or maybe something jumps in its path, even though it will avoid things, you may want to just come up, hit that button, and it's going to stop everything right there. You can return it to its station or turn it back on later, what have you. Right here is a rain sensor. So this is going to be, if it starts raining, it kind of pulls up right here, connects these, or kind of closes this circuit, if you will. And then that's going to tell it, hey, it needs to go into rain mode and kind of return home. Even though I believe its IPX5 should be fine out in the weather, it's just not made to mow during a thunderstorm. So that's going to tell it to return home and don't start mowing until that dries out. So if you ever go out, and you should be notified on your app, but if there's a pool of water in there, you may just want to dry that out if it's quit raining, and then the mower should work absolutely fine. So now we're looking underneath the mower, and you see we have two mowing discs here with 3 blades on each one. So these are going to spin. And as you can see, these blades, if you know what a bush hog acts like, in other words, it's not a fixed blade, it swings out of the way when it hits something. Same idea here, except with a lot less force. So yes, they are like razor blades, so it should cut the grass very clean. However, if it hits the least weight of an obstacle, it's just going to spin out of the way. So in addition to the obstacle avoidance with the camera, in addition to a front bumper that if it's impacted, it shuts it down, it also has that ability to spin right out of the way, whether it be a stick, a toy, somebody's foot, whatever it may be. It also has like a floating suspension here, so you can see these wheels are kind of floating. So even though they're the drive wheels, there is some suspension there, as well as even the floating deck as well. So you can see this kind of floats out of the way when it needs to. And you can adjust that on the app. There's no manual adjustment on here. You can do that all with the app. Also, here's the wheel here in the back. Now, usually when we see these are just kind of like a swivel caster, and there's a big plastic wheel back here. And usually it's just like a follower, and it gets in the way, or it actually has trouble maneuvering. This is actually a drive wheel here. So there's actually a motor back here. We have sensor wires going in here. So this is going to help drive it, so it's not going to get stuck near as often as something where it would just be dragging that wheel or trying to push a swivel caster like this. So this is actually doing the turning as well as doing the driving also. Now, also, as we mentioned, right out of the gate, usually these robotic mowers have one single disc. This has 2. So actually, we have a cutting capacity of about 14 inches here. So again, normally you're looking at 6.5, 7 inches of a cutting swath, but now we're talking a 14-inch cutting swath. So we're doubling our production on a robot mower. So that's how we're able to get, up to 3/4 of an acre and be able to do it much faster also. This would be where the battery is mounted. You shouldn't have to do anything with that. It should be already in place when you get yours. But if you ever need to replace one, or that's where the battery is going to be, just 4 screws to remove that. Now you've got a pretty long power cord with this. I'm just going to tuck it away right here. And I'm going to, and then I need to put the little QR code thing in there. So this is going to mount right there. Put the rest of our stakes in. So this is the lead coming from the base station or the charging station. And this is the power supply. Pretty easy to connect those. Hard to get that wrong, and then you'll want to screw that down. Turn our AC outlets on and plug that in. One thing I was interested to see would be how much current it's drawing, and right now it's not drawing any. So I'll be interested to see once it starts charging how much it draws. Now this is the RTK antenna, and it does need clear access. We're going to mount it out here a little ways. They say you definitely want a 90-degree angle on this. I'm going to go ahead and raise it up. It is very secure with just those stakes. I'm very impressed with that. And you also have a power supply for the RTK antenna as well. Same type of connection. It's hard to go wrong. And then secure it by threading it on, and then we'll power it up. Now it still shows drawing 0 current, which is a little perplexing because I figured it would be powering something. But if we look here on our dock, we have a green light, which tells us the dock is powered. We'll go ahead and shove the mower in. Now we've got a blinking light, which again should tell us that we're actually charging the mower now. Now we never covered exactly how big overall the mower was. So width, you're looking at right at 19 inches wide, and from front to back, about 28 inches. And then height, it's going to come in right at probably 10.5 inches tall. Now with the mower on there, it looks like we're pulling 20 to 23 watts as far as what it's drawing to charge, but I believe it's already charged. So it's at 100% showing on the mower. So it will probably draw more than that when it really needs to charge. So when you first get the mower and you open the app and you go through all the setup, it may come up with an update like we see right here. I'm just going to go ahead and say update now. And it basically says there's a new version, what is fixed. And I'm going to say update now. And it's downloading firmware, it tells you a percentage. And it's actually updating the firmware on the robot. So you'll get an app notification if you have an app update. You also get a notification in the app if it needs a firmware update. Very easy to do this, and it gives you very specific intel on what it's doing. So I really like that. So now we're saying the firmware download is successful. Wait for the robot to complete the upgrade. Please do not shut down the mower when it displays load. It does not display load, so it should be good. And now I'm ready to start mapping. Not sure if you can see here, there are 4 green lights right here to let you know, do you have signal, do you have Wi-Fi signal, do you have GPS signal, and the power as well blinking, letting you know that everything is good to go. We've got green on all of those, so we should be good. Setting this up through the app is really self-explanatory. They have a manual to walk you through it, as well as you can probably just open the app, walk through it, very easy to do so. Then we're going to use our phone to map all of this. And right here it says start mapping. We're going to click start mapping. And say make sure that you've got everything ready. So dogs out of the way, things like that. And the first thing you're going to do is map the main area. And this is kind of walks you through kind of details of that you can map out exceptions like don't mow here, no-go zones. But first you're going to do the big area first and then come back and do your no-go zones. Now it's verifying like the pin, that the robot's at max or minimum of 50% power, that the camera's functional. So it's going through like a self-check diagnosis right here. So one of the things you have to do is enter the code here on the mower for the first time. So basically, okay, you're going to put in 4 zeros until you change that pin. The initial pin or default pin is going to be 4 zeros. And now I'm ready for mapping. So to map this, we're just going to use our phone as a remote control where we can back this out, pull it back, go forward, side to side. But first we have to click the start mapping button. So we're just going to use our remote control. And we're going to drive this to the boundary first. That's our boundary. I'm going to hit the play button, hit work zone, confirm. Got it. Yes, it's at the boundary. And here we go. Now, there were a couple of things I definitely wanted to show. One of them was kind of this undulation we have right here. We have a big hump right in front of me. We have a big hole right here that likes to collect water. I just wanted to make sure that not only in mapping, but when it's mowing, could it traverse all of this up the front, up the sides, and back down here, which again is another low spot. Now, obviously, there's water in here. We wouldn't want it to do this. But would it be able to handle the hills, which is supposed to be able to handle, I believe it's a 30-degree grade. So we should be fine with that. But again, I wanted to have that mapped in there to make sure. So now we're nearing our starting point here. Looking at the map. And I want to connect to my starting point, which is right there. Now, if I click the stop button, it says, do I want to end remote mapping? I'm going to confirm. And now it shows me a whole blocked out area of my map. Now, here's what I can do. I have a small structure right here that I need to have in the mapping zone. Now, I could let the mower just identify this and it would kind of see it as an obstacle and kind of back around it. But to mow more efficiently, if you can actually add a no-go zone. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say obstacle and confirm. And it tells me some information or some instructions. And I say, got it. Is the robot ready to start mapping? I'm going to say no, and I'm just going to position the mower ready to identify the obstacle. There we go. And again, I'm going to say obstacle, confirm. Got it. Is robot ready to start mapping? Yes. So now I'm going to map the obstacle. So you want to get in a position to where you're ready to kind of identify where your obstacle is. Hit the stop button. Do you want to end remote mapping? Confirm. And so now I have an obstacle zone in there. I'm going to add also 3 more trees that are in our path and then finish the map. Okay, now I'm going to add these trees as obstacles. Okay, so I'm done mapping, and there you can see kind of the whole peninsula with the no-go zone. So I've got the large no-go zone there, the 3 down here of the 3 trees, and I should be ready to go. This is also, if you had a separate zone, you could go into corridor and actually create a pathway or corridor to the next property where not necessarily mowing that, but it's just connecting it maybe down a driveway or a path or something like that as well. So now all I'm going to do is, back to the page before. Have you already completed the creation of all zones? Yes. And I'm going to say retain. And I'm going to tell it to return to the dock. Should be seeing that barcode with the camera. And it should line up and pull right in and dock in the station. Now that whole thing took me about 30 minutes to do, to map that out. I've got a pretty large area. Not sure exactly how much. Oh, actually it does say 611 square meters of working area. In working time, about 174 minutes. So about 3 hours of mowing time to complete this. Okay, we're ready to mow, but I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Number one, our antenna here, I did not map out in the zone. So it's going to have to deal with that with its senses. So we'll kind of see how that manages, how the Sunseeker manages around that, because we didn't add that as a no-go zone. Also, there's additional settings in here. If I go to map setting, and I can go into remote mapping, safe zone, manage. I can add virtual no-go zones just by drawing that in here. Also, if I click the up button here, then I can go in and set the cutter height. And I can say, okay, let me set this down. I can centimeters or inches, and I'm going to go to 2.5 inches or 2.6 inches and confirm. and cutting rotation speed. Go to low or high. I'm going to go in high and confirm that. With the cutter open, the remote controlled robot will mow at the current speed. Confirm. And now I can actually remote mow if I wanted to, but I'm going to go back in and I'm going to go into settings, and in zone settings, I can set edge frequency. So how often that it actually goes in and mows close to the edge. You don't have to do that every time. So I could say every second time or every third time. I can set it on rain delay where it actually waits to mow if it's raining. Auto boundary option, when turned on, the robot will learn to optimize the map. So I could select that. I'm going to leave that off for right now. And then AI recognition sensitivity, the robot's automatic obstacle detection. I'm going to go into normal mode and turn on only. And then I can set a schedule if I want to. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Then go in device info, time zone settings, things like that. Go back and go to global settings, and I'm going to confirm that. And now I can tell it to the cutting efficiency on high efficiency, balanced, or fine tuning. I'm going to say balanced. And cutting direction, standard, traceless, or custom. I'm going to set that even. I'm going to set a cutting rotation speed. Got it. Set it on high. Obviously, that's probably going to suck more power down. But again, I can set all those things, and then I can set a schedule if I want to. But I'm just going to get out of that, and let's start mowing. And I'm going to hit the mow button. Robot is leaving station.
Now, one thing to understand is that even though the mapping is complete once you start mowing, the Vision AI system is always active and always looking for new things that may be out there. Maybe it's a bicycle, maybe it's a ball, could be something that we've forgotten to map, like the antenna here we mentioned. So it's always looking, even though, like I said, something may not be hard-coded into the map, it's still utilizing its active navigation system and cameras to be on the lookout for those things that could be a potential hazard.
So here it's kind of detecting that antenna and going around it. Again, this is not mapped into the software here or into the plan, so it's handling that on its own.
Now, something else to note here is, as you see it kind of get going, if you will, this is kind of its first minute or so out of the gate or out of the station, and first thing it notices is that antenna, and it's kind of, moving around, looking around, but you'll see that pretty quickly it kind of finds some open ground, and once it finds open ground, it's not just kind of roaming around restlessly, if you will. It starts making straight lines. Here in just one moment, you'll notice, and continues to make those straight lines wherever it can to cover the most amount of ground without a lot of turns. And we think that's one of the biggest perks here on this mower, is the ability to do these straight lines. As you can see here, even though it's in a smaller area, just a little arc here in the turf, it's taking these straight lines as much as it can to, again, cover the most ground as possible and the most efficiently. And now it's found the open ground on the other side of that shed, and again, you see it right away, making these long straight passes that are very straight and really just kind of moving over a little less than a mower's width and cutting all of the grass, but again, doing it very efficiently and very straight. Then these trees were mapped into the software, so you see it pretty efficiently goes around those as well. Doesn't get extremely close, and now here the rain comes, and it's coming down pretty hard, as you can see. And by the way, it actually sensed that rain and sent it back to the station to recharge, and this is the day after, and as you can see, we got a ton of rain, so now we've got these huge puddles sitting out there, and the mower's got to react to those, whether it's go through them or see them. But as you can see, there's a couple of low spots with water. It sees those and avoids those for the most part.
Now you can see here the all-wheel drive coming into effect here in situations that you probably should avoid with yours. It does a good job at recognizing when there was a big puddle, but you could see it kind of meandered around a little bit and did go in some of the wet stuff, but never got stuck. This is the first robotic mower that we've reviewed that has not gotten stuck in some scenario, usually in real thick grass or in mud, they will get stuck because typically it's just front wheel drive wheels or rear wheel drive wheels driving it. And so the opposite side always gets stuck. Not with the Sunseeker. The all-wheel drive system kicks in and takes it up the slope or takes it through the wet muck or whatever it may be. And as we mentioned earlier, this thing tracks really, really straight lines. You can see it both on the app as well as in person. And again, every now and then you'll see it kind of move out of the way, but it straightens itself back up and the next pass is dead straight. So really impressed by the striping capability of this, whether it's actually doing stripes or not. It stays on track and takes a really, really straight line.
Now, keep in mind the max area of coverage for this mower is supposed to be 3/4 of an acre. Now, that does not mean it will go out on one single charge and cover that 3/4 of an acre. In fact, it's probably going to do maybe a 1/4 acre at a time, or maybe even an 1/8 acre at a time, but it will go out and continue to cover that ground until it finishes the map. So in other words, if it is out mowing, say, Zone A or Zone B or whatever lawn you have it mowing, it will go out and spin the battery, and let's say when it gets down to 20%, it will return that back to the base station, back to the charging station, so it will charge up, and as soon as it's charged up, it will go out the next time and then finish its task. So you don't have to worry about, starting it in certain places or anything like that, like this right here. It's finishing that zone. And so once it gets complete, then it knows it's completed, again, sends it back to the charging station, and then it will go to its next scheduled event, or when you hit play and you want to just mow that area again, or you can select which zone you want to mow. So you can either select those zones or you can set scheduled times, but it's still, the mower knows when it's completed a task and when it hasn't, and it will always go back to the station and recharge and then go back and finish that task.
Now let's talk about pricing. The pricing on this unit, as you see here, the 3/4 acre unit is $2,400. Now you can get a 1.5 acre unit, which is basically just a bigger battery, and that's going to run you right at $3,000. I think it's $29.99. So $2,400 or $3,000, whether you want the 3/4 acre model or the 1.5 acre model. Now, we thought this did very, very well. We love the dual blade design where you're getting a 14-inch cutting swath, as well as the ability to have that all-wheel drive to drive wherever it needs to go. I'm very impressed with this unit. Not a lot of drawbacks on it. I will say it's rather slow, but all robotic mowers are pretty slow, and I'm not sure this is any faster or slower, but you'll just recognize that it's not maybe as fast as you want it to be. But the whole idea of a robot mower is it's just doing everything while you're not having to be there and you're not having to, stand beside it. Now, will you have to break out the string trimmer and get close to those trees or close to those obstacles, close to your shed, close to those, sidewalks, things like that? Yeah, sometimes if it's a nice flat surface and you can straddle that when you're mapping, you won't have to worry about it. It will mow all that, but it's not going to get all the way up against the side of a building, so you will have to take your string trimmer and come behind it. Otherwise, this thing did a great job, and the whole, mapping process and even the performance afterwards, very impressed with that. And be sure to check it out. We've got a link in the description. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And by all means, if you hated our Sunseeker robotic mower review video, then give us a thumbs down. Would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day. Keep smiling.